I never thought a delivery girl would save a millionaire from a heartbreaking mistake. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sky was an unsettling gray, heavy with the promise of rain. Each droplet felt like a tiny hammer hitting the pavement. I was running late, my heart pounding in my chest like a caged animal. My delivery bag bounced against my side as I dodged through the crowded streets, the aroma of fresh coffee and pastries only amplifying my urgency. I gripped the straps tightly, trembling hands trying to steady my breaths. Today was not just another job, it felt different. The air buzzed with electricity. That's when I saw him. Ethan Blake. The millionaire, the one everyone in the city spoke about in hushed tones. He stood there, disheveled and distraught, his normally perfectly styled hair battling the wind. His eyes, deep and haunted, scanned the throngs of people as if searching for something or someone. I had delivered to him before, but never had I seen this expression painted across his chiseled features. He looked lost. There was something unusual about him that day. A luxurious suit hung on him like a shroud, perfectly pressed fabric contrasted against his shaking hands. I could feel the tension crackling in the air, the whispers of passerby brushing past my ears. Did you hear? The Blake family is in trouble. They say he might lose everything. Their chatter and ominous background to my racing thoughts that I couldn't ignore the tension. I stepped forward, adrenaline surging. Mr. Blake? My voice trembled slightly, but he turned, those piercing eyes now meeting mine, sharp as a knife. I could see the sorrow reflected in the depths of his gaze. A breath caught in my throat. It was more than just pain, it was desperation. Please, I need help, he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. I leaned in closer, every instinct urging me to step back, but I felt tethered. Everything around us melted away. The bustling world blurred into silence, leaving just the two of us in that electric moment that he reached into his pocket, pulling out a crumpled letter. It was stained with tears, the ink smudged. I didn't mean to hurt her, he choked out, pain lacing every word. I thought I was protecting her. His hands trembled as the letter fluttered in the wind, a ghost of words that could ruin him. At that moment, I understood. This wasn't just any delivery. This was a lifeline that a million thoughts raced through my mind. I could turn away. I could keep delivering my packages, erase this whole situation from memory. But I felt something in my chest, a tightness that begged me to stay. I had never considered myself the heroine of any story, but now, the stakes felt higher than I could have imagined. Before I could reply, before I could offer him the comfort of understanding, a sudden scream pierced the air. A woman collapsed in the crowd, eyes wide with terror. Everyone turned, gasps echoed. I felt my heart leap into my throat. Who was she? What had just happened? Ethan's focus shifted from me to the chaos. I need to go. His voice was frantic now. But it was too late. As he took a step forward, I reached out. Wait. Please, we need to figure this out. But he ripped from my grasp. I can't. I have to. His words trailed off as he dashed into the sea of people that I stared after him, confusion wrestling with fear. What just happened? I had stepped into something bigger than myself, yet I felt the thrill of possibility surge within me. The million-dollar question loomed: could I be the spark in his chaotic life? What role did I play in his story? Would Ethan Blake ever turn back and realize the quiet delivery girl was his only hope? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain started to fall, initially just droplets that quickly turned into a relentless downpour. The city streets transformed into rivers as I stood there, feeling completely lost. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of my emotions. Ethan Blake had just dashed into the crowd, leaving me clutching the remnants of a moment that felt woven with destiny. I wanted to believe I could be the one to help him, but how could I? I was just a delivery girl, a whisper in the cacophony of his extravagant world that I turned and began to walk away, each step squelching in puddles as I fought against the burning questions in my mind. Could I actually reach him? Would he even want my help? The pit of despair in my stomach twisted painfully. This wasn't about mere curiosity, it was about believing I could make a difference. I had to hold on to the thread of hope that somehow bound us together. As I navigated through the rain, an unexpected shout pulled me from my thoughts. Hey! Watch out! I spun around just in time to see a skateboarder barreling towards me, seemingly oblivious to the world around him. I froze, paralyzed by the moment. But a soft, firm grip caught my arm, yanking me aside just before the skateboard zipped past, leaving chaos in its wake. The teenager who saved me was breathless, concern etched across his freckled face. You all right? His voice was warm, an unexpected kindness amidst a chaotic day. I nodded, too overwhelmed to form words. People don't look where they're going these days, he muttered, shaking his head with a mix of annoyance and sympathy. You really should watch out. He flashed me a crooked smile, but it was enough to kindle a flicker of warmth in my heart. In this relentless storm, this young stranger had chosen to be an umbrella of kindness, if only for a fleeting moment. That I continued on my route, the world feeling heavier than ever, yet that brief interaction lingered in my mind. Perhaps it was true what they said, that connections could spark in the most unexpected places. I arrived at a cafe to drop off an order, shaking off the remnants of the rain as I entered. The warm aroma of freshly ground coffee enveloped me, a cocoon of comfort. The barista, noticing my drenched appearance, handed me a cup. On the house. Tough day? She asked with a sympathetic smile. Those simple acts of kindness filled me with light. Yet, it didn't erase the unanswered questions about Ethan or the weight of his turmoil that pressed upon my chest. I found a corner table and took a deep breath, clutching the warm cup as I replayed everything in my mind. Hours later, as if on cue, my phone buzzed, relentlessly, notifications streaming in. My heart raced as I read the emerging news headline: Ethan Blake's empire on the brink, controversial divorce shocks the community. An image of Ethan looking worse for wear, shadows beneath his eyes, stared back at me. The comments beneath were brutal, filled with accusations and blame, mixed with just a hint of sympathy that I felt nauseous. This wasn't just a story, this was his life, his heart. The world turned its back on him in an instant, and I was left powerless, even as I yearned to reach out. But maybe, just maybe, this was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment I could step into his world and offer my unwavering support. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, a message lighting up the screen. Can we talk? I need your help. The message was from an unknown number, but my heart recognized the urgency behind it. I hesitated for a split second, my fears and doubts clawing at me. Then, with a deep breath, I replied, yes. Where? As I awaited his response, a tiny spark of hope bloomed amidst the chaos. Maybe this was my moment to shine, my chance to be the guiding light he so desperately needed. Before I could settle into the anticipation, a shadow loomed above me. I looked up to find a figure blocking the afternoon glow. My breath hitched in my throat as I recognized the man standing before me. It was Ethan. His hair was wet and wild, his eyes ablaze with emotions I couldn't decipher. I need you to listen. His voice practically trembled with desperation. They're coming for me. I don't know who I can trust. I need you. His urgent plea sent a thrill of fear and exhilaration through me. This was my moment, but it felt like standing at the edge of an abyss. What would I do next? Would I be the one to face the storm with him, or would I falter when it mattered most? The weight of his gaze held promises of hope and danger intertwined, and I knew nothing would ever be the same again. Ethan's words hung heavily in the air, creating a tension that crackled like the thunder above us. You've got to trust me, he urged, his voice soft yet urgent, as if he feared the vulnerability he was exposing. The way he looked at me, a mix of desperation and hope, sent my heart racing. I nodded, the small movement somehow feeling monumental. What do you need me to do? I asked, barely able to suppress the quiver in my voice. The cafe buzzed around us, oblivious to our turmoil, but all I could focus on was the raw pain in Ethan's eyes and the storm that raged within him, matching the weather outside that I can't go back home. Not yet. There are things happening, things I can't explain right now. But I trust you, he said, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone to swoop in and pull him back into the chaos from which he had escaped. Where will you go? I replied, instinctively moving closer, ready to stand by him. My heart raced with an almost reckless sense of purpose. At that moment, nothing felt more important than being there for him. Ethan hesitated, the weight of those choices cracking his facade. There's a park nearby, a quiet place where we can talk. Just, can you promise to keep your phone close? I need to know you can reach me if things go sideways. I felt a tremor at the edge of uncertainty in his plea. I promise, I said, forcing conviction into my voice. With a quick glance around to gauge the atmosphere, I noticed shadows flitting about outside, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Together, we slipped out of the cafe, two mismatched souls caught in a storm far greater than either of us had anticipated. As we walked, the rain began to lighten, though the air remained thick with tension. I stole glances at Ethan. This man, once hewn from the marble of privilege, now seemed fractured, vulnerable. The man who was used to bearing the world's weight now needed someone to help shoulder the burden. I could see the weight of expectation clinging to him like the humidity in the air. What are you afraid of? I asked, trying to breach the shield he had put up. He glanced at me, surprise flickering in his expression. That he'll lose everything, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Friends, my company. I've sacrificed so much to build it all, only to have it come crashing down because of lies. I felt a sense of empathy wash over me, unknowingly tangled in his plight. Lies? What lies? I pressed, craving to understand. People say I'm a monster. They say I ruined my marriage, that I'm selfish and reckless. He sighed deeply, the crack in his voice threatening to break. But the truth is far more complicated. I won't let my life be defined by the opinions of those who don't know the full story. Hearing his pain struck a chord within me. We were bound in the same struggle, wanting to be understood, to be seen. I wondered if this was what it meant to be brave, not just for him, but for myself too. I had always hidden behind my job, my quiet life as a delivery girl, afraid to step forward and claim my own voice. We reached the park, the gentle patter of rain softening into a drizzle, leaving the air freshly fragrant. The trees stood tall, providing a strange sort of shelter as we settled onto a damp bench. A sense of surreal calm enveloped us, interrupted only by the occasional rustle of leaves. Then let me help you tell your story, I ventured, the words bursting forth from the wellspring of courage I didn't know I had. If it's the truth, then people will listen. Ethan looked at me, a flicker of hope beginning to illuminate his stormy eyes. You really think anyone will care what a delivery girl has to say, more than you know? I replied, emboldened by the sincerity of my voice. Sometimes, the most unexpected people find the loudest voices. His gaze softened, but before he could respond, the first blaring sound of sirens echoed in the distance. My heart lurched, and Ethan's expression transformed into one of alarm. This isn't over, he muttered, shaking his head slightly as if denying reality. I can't put you in danger. You have to. Go. No, I insisted, gripping his arm. You can't just push me away. I've just found my purpose in all this. But as the shadows lengthened and voices began to rise in the distance, a flicker of doubt ignited in me. What was I getting myself into? I had left my mundane routine behind, and now stood on the precipice of something enormous, yet I couldn't shake the fear. Then, a sharp laugh pierced through the silencia, voice I recognized immediately, echoing back to the world from which Ethan was fleeing. I turned, dread pooling in my stomach as I saw Nolan, Ethan's estranged business partner, striding toward us with a smug grin plastered across his face. His eyes danced with malice, and in that moment, I realized we were no longer just spectators. We were swept into a whirlwind that threatened to drag us both under. Thought you could hide, did you? Nolan sneered, his voice heavy with mockery. All of this is going to end, Ethan. You'll see. The world around us blurred into a haze, a mix of fear and adrenaline burrowing into my bones. My heart raced, and I stole a glance at Ethan, who who was now tense, ready for a confrontation. We stood together, on the brink of everything unraveling, with both hope and turmoil twirling in a perilous dance. Would this be the moment we would find clarity, or would the tides carry us further into chaos? Time hung suspended as I held my breath, uncertain of what steps to take next, with entire worlds tipping precariously on the edge. The air thickened, and it felt as though the world had narrowed down to that single moment, the sneer on Nolan's face a dark omen of confrontations yet to come. I felt Ethan's arm tense under my grip, a silent signal that danger was closing in. "Nolan," he said, his voice steadier than I felt. "What do you want?" "The usual," Nolan mocked, stepping closer as if to bully the space between us. "Your surrender to the truth. You think running away will save you? You're still tied to the past, and you know it." He glanced at me, his eyes sharp. "And it looks like you found yourself an unlikely accomplice." My breath quickened as I exchanged anxious glances with Ethan, who hovered between anger and caution, like a coiled spring ready to snap. "That's not what this is about," I said, trying to muster the courage to stand in the face of his arrogance. "Ethan deserves to tell his side, just like everyone else." The words echoed, but I wasn't sure who I was trying to convince, Nolan, Ethan, or myself. Tell his side? Nolan scoffed, crossing his arms defiantly. "He's cost too many people far too much. You'll see he's a sinking ship, and you're just another anchor pulling him down." I flinched at the cruelty in his tone, and the fear coursing through me threatened to unravel my composure. "Get away from us," Ethan interjected, stepping forward, a fire igniting behind his stormy eyes. "You don't get to dictate my life. Not anymore." Nolan's face twisted into a smirk, reveling in the fight that had erupted between us. "You have no idea how deep the waters run, do you? But don't worry, they'll be sure to let everyone know how this romance of yours ends." Ethan flinched, and the pain in his gaze carved a new place for self-doubt to settle. "Romance?" I blurted out, horrified at the implications of Nolan's words, but I looked to Ethan, searching for a fierce reassurance in his expression, only to find shadows lurking in the corners of his mind. With a dismissive laugh, Nolan retreated a few steps, but his gaze remained fixed on us, lingering like a storm cloud refusing to dissipate. "You'll regret this, Ethan. Just wait. No amount of running will shield you from the truth." As he turned and walked away, a palpable weight shifted back on our shoulders. "Ethan, what does he know?" I whispered, concern flooding my voice. "What's the truth he's talking about? I don't understand." He shook his head, the anguish clear on his face as he kept his eyes fixed on the spot where Nolan had just stood. "It's not that simple." The tremor in his voice made my chest constrict with sorrow. "There are things I wish I could explain, things I didn't want you to worry about." "Worry? I'm already in this with you, whether you like it or not," I asserted, a newfound determination bolstering my voice. "Tell me. Please, don't shut me out." He took a deep breath, the shadows of his burdens flickering across his face like whispers of lost opportunities. "There was a a deal that went wrong," and his words trailed off, eyes flicking away, burdened by the realization that he was risking everything with me. "Ethan, you can trust me," I pressed, my heart pounding against the chamber of my ribcage. "Whatever it is, you don't have to bear it alone." He met my gaze, searching my face for sincerity, but I could see the walls he had built solidifying again. "I don't want you to get hurt because of me. It's not just my past, it's deeply connected to my future." And people. He hesitated, and I felt my heart ache for his plight. "People? Do you mean Nolan?" He nodded slowly, the tension in his jaw tightening. "He's not just a partner gone rogue, he knows things that could ruin me completely." I thought I could handle it, but now you're scared, I finished for him, struck by how easily the pieces of his heart fell into place when his defenses crumbled. "And it's okay to be scared." "I don't know what to do," he admitted, a raw honesty in his voice that sent tendrils of empathy wrapping around my heart. "I can't let it all fall apart. Me company, my name, and especially I can't let you get pulled into this mess." That I reached out, taking his hand, the warmth of connection briefly bridging the storm between us. "Then let me help. I want to help." Just as I thought we might find some small solace in a shared vulnerability, a low rumble of thunder echoed again, foreshadowing impending confrontation. From the edge of the park, shadows emerged, two figures, unmistakable in their intent as they moved closer, asserting their presence. Ethan. One called out with a familiar urgency. It was Jenna, Ethan's sister, her face taut with concern, followed closely by another figure I recognized too well. Alex, my boss, who was supposed to be at the cafe hours ago, now here to draw me back into my prior reality. Why did you leave? Jenna demanded, her eyes scanning me first, then landing on Ethan, the unspoken questions lurking on her lips. What trouble did you get into now? I'm not in trouble, Jenna. Not like what you think. Ethan's voice strained against the incredulity that I need to help him. I blurted, clutching Ethan's hand tighter, sensing the moment teetering on the edge of chaos. But the unmistakable glint in Alex's eyes was menacing, and apprehension washed over me anew. Helping him will only drag you down to his level, Alex shot back, before turning to Ethan. You think you can escape your problems? You have no idea how much is at stake. The air crackled with tension. In this moment, I knew I was standing on a precipice of resolve and uncertainty. Ethan's grip tightened around my hand, and as the oncoming storm enveloped us once more, I feared for the future that awaited us. Secrets loomed ominously, like the dark clouds overhead ready to unleash their fury. Would truth come to set us free, or would it only seal our fates? The rain poured down as if the sky were weeping along with my heart, creating a cacophony of chaos around us. I could scarcely hear Jenna's voice as she continued to press Ethan, her brow furrowed with worry. All I could feel was the way Ethan's fingers trembled slightly against mine, each heartbeat amplifying the tension in the air. Jenna, please, Ethan implored, his voice strained, this isn't what it looks like. I'm trying to fix things, to own up to my mistakes. There was an uncharacteristic vulnerability in his eyes that nudged me further into the depths of my own emotions. He was a man standing on the edge of an abyss, and I was scared that the weight of his past would pull us both over. Fix things? Jenna retorted, her voice rising above the deluge as she stepped nearer, each word dripping with disbelief. You don't just get to wave a magic wand and make everything all right, Ethan. You've been hiding behind your charm and your work for too long. If you think I'm going to let you walk away from this, I'm not walking away. He shouted back, a surge of determination propelling forth. But letting you in means letting you bear a burden that isn't yours. Before Jenna could respond, Alex interjected, pulling all attention back to him, a sinister smile creeping across his face. This little tête-à-tête has turned into quite the soap opera, hasn't it? But really, Ethan, you ought to consider your optics. Are you prepared to crumble everything you've built over some trite romantic fantasy? The venom in his words stung like icy rain landing on bare skin. I felt my anger boiling beneath the surface, threatening to spill over. You don't know anything about us. I shot back, my voice trembling with defiance. Or about your own naivete. He countered, casting a sideways glance at Ethan. Falling for someone like her could be another one of your reckless impulses, especially when you're already standing on shaky ground. The implication hung heavy in the air, and my chest tightened. A creeping dread filled me, as if I were dangling above the abyss, the realization that I could, in some twisted way, be the catalyst of his downfall. Stop, Ethan interrupted, his voice low and firm, shaking with emotion. Just stop. I won't let you manipulate me through her. I won't run anymore. His words felt like a declaration of war against the life warranty that had kept him pinned down for so long. Run? Oh, you think you can run away from this? Alex laughed, the chilling sound echoing over the rain. You think you can escape the mess in your life by chasing after a fleeting moment of happiness? You have no idea what's coming. Panic fluttered in my chest, a reminder of how easily joy could be snatched away. I wanted to scream at Alex, to tell him that love should never be deemed a mistake, that it had the power to lift someone up rather than trap them. You're wrong. I shouted, my voice rising above the chaos. Love is worth the risk, even if it's wrapped in chaos. But even as those bold words escaped my lips, shadows of doubt crept in. What did I truly know about the weight of Ethan's world? Would my love be a burden, a weight he couldn't bear? Love? Alex chuckled darkly, his brows raised in disdain. You call this love? You think whatever is happening here is real? You're both just running away from your own realities. And Yoha pointed at me, the sudden stillness of the falling rain framing the moment are simply too naive to recognize a ticking time bomb. Suddenly, it felt as though the ground beneath us shifted, a truth that had been lurking in the corners of Ethan's shadowy past finally flickered to life. What do you know? Ethan's voice dripped with desperation, pulling my focus back to him. You think I'm going to tell you? Alex smirked, a glint of malice shining in his eyes. Let me remind you, Ethan, you've made enemies powerful ones. They'd love nothing more than to see you flattened. And anyone you bring into your storm? He gestured at me, the implication clear. They'll become collateral damage. The rain fell harder, every drop igniting the trepidation swirling in my heart. Collateral damage, I whispered, shivering under the weight of his words. Enough. Jenna's voice cut through, fierce and unwavering. It's time to come clean, Ethan. You're putting everyone at risk by hiding behind this facade. Her heart was in the right place, but it only pricked at the delicate threads of hope that held us together. So what? I should just lay my life bare to you and let you decide my fate? Ethan challenged, resentment bubbling to the surface. I deserve to know, and so does she. Jenna returned, her frustration palpable, her heart lay bare, caught in the crossfire. You're drowning in your secrets, and it's not fair to pretend that they won't drown us too. As the rain picked up and thunder rumbled ominously overhead, my thoughts tugged wildly in all directions. I knew there were layers to Ethan I didn't fully understand, complexities hidden beneath his reflective gaze. Please, I pleaded softly, my voice barely croaking out as I turned to him, we can face this together. Let me in. Ethan hesitated, searching between our intense exchange and the chaos swirling around us. The storm outside mirrored that tempest of emotions raging within him. And just as he appeared ready to break, a sudden cry pierced through the air, a desperate plea laden with urgency. Ethan. It's Liam. We need to go now. Liam, one of Ethan's former colleagues, emerged from the shadows, fear etched into his features, and panic danced in his eyes like a wildfire threatening to consume everything in its path. The urgency of his words sent shockwaves through my body, a deep sense of foreboding settling in my gut. What do you mean? Ethan replied, pulse quickening at the unexpected intrusion that I overheard them. The threats they're making. You're not safe. None of us are. We need to get out of here before they find us. My heart dropped as dread washed over me. The threads binding us together in this tumultuous storm frayed dangerously, and I felt the weight of reality crashing back in. Ethan, I started, but the words caught in my throat as realization dawned upon me. He was caught in a web far darker than I had ever imagined. Would we escape before the storm unleashed its wrath? Or would I become another shadow in the tangled reality of his life, a secret destined to haunt us both? The rain continued to pelt against the pavement, a relentless soundtrack to the chaos unfolding before us. I could feel my heart racing as Liam's panicked plea settled like lead in my stomach. The fragile hope that had flickered between Ethan and me seemed to be swept away in the torrent of this unexpected crisis. Where? Where do we go? Ethan's voice wavered, his eyes darting toward me and then back to Liam. The desperation was palpable, and I could almost see the invisible chains binding him to his past, dragging him deeper into shadows he desperately wanted to escape. Anywhere but here, Liam gasped, casting a wary glance over his shoulder, as if expecting someone to emerge from the darkness. They're coming for you, Ethan. We can't wait. Every instinct in me screamed to give Ethan a reason to fight, to cling to the elusive thread of hope we'd begun to weave. And yet, the reality of the situation throbbed like a wound that wouldn't close. The world around us felt monstrous, and I was terrified I would slip away into the void that haunted Ethan's life. As I turned to face him, I caught a flicker of vulnerability cross his face, the hard exterior cracking under the weight of fear and uncertainty. Ethan, I whispered, my voice steadier than I felt, please, this isn't just about you anymore. We need to make a decision together. Whatever's happening, we can face it side by side. His gaze locked on mine, and there was a moment of understanding, a brief flicker of light in the heavy storm that surrounded us. But before he could respond, Alex's voice cut through the air again, dripping with derision and certainty. You really think they'll leave you alone? You think they care about your little romance? You have something they want, and they won't stop until they've taken everything from you. Including her. The words sank into me like jagged shards of glass, and I clenched my fists at my sides to keep from shaking. I was standing at the brink of a chasm, and the weight of Ethan's hidden realities loomed over us like a dark cloud ready to burst. But something inside me refused to accept defeat. Ethan, I urged again, stepping closer, my voice a lifeboat in a tumultuous sea. You're not alone anymore. I won't let you face whatever this is without me. Not now. Not ever. His eyes held mine for an eternal moment, flickering with a mixture of fear and longing, but the moment was shattered by the urgency in Liam's tone. We need to move, now, Ethan nodded, a flame of determination igniting within him as he took my hand and squeezed it tightly. It was a lifeline, weaving me into his world as we faced the storm together. Yet, with each passing second, I felt a sinking dread tethering my heart. What were we running towards? And what awaited us on the other side of this chaos? Together, we began to traverse the slippery streets, each step amplifying my anxiety. It wasn't just Ethan's safety I feared for, the magnitude of danger stretched across the boundaries of my own life. I had thought love could shield us, but now I felt like we were stumbling toward an unknown abyss. Blindfolded and unsteady as we rounded a corner, pulling ourselves into an alleyway. Liam grasped Ethan's shoulder, his voice urgent. You have to trust me. I know a place where we can regroup. It's on the outskirts of the city. Well, suddenly, a flicker of movement caught my eye. A dark figure leaning against the wall, hardly lit by the faint glow of a flickering streetlight. My heart plummeted as the reality of our precarious situation struck again. Ethan, I began, fear creeping into my voice. Stay close, he instructed, pulling me nearer. The figure stepped forward, but they weren't threatening. Instead, I squinted through the rain to make out familiar features, the face of someone who had been only a specter in Ethan's shadowy past, now emerging like a ghost materializing from the depths. Brace yourself, Ethan, the figure murmured, tightening a leather jacket over their shoulders. I didn't think you'd actually show. The smirk on their face revealed layers of history and a bond that seemed unbreakable, despite the storm that threatened to envelop us. Riley, Ethan breathed, his voice thick with surprise and unresolved tension. What are you doing here? Came to warn you, Riley said, glancing at me with curious eyes. You're in deeper than you realize, my friend. They're closer than you think, and if you truly care about her, you need to listen. They're planning something. As Riley's words trailed off, the sound of approaching footsteps neared, sending a bolt of apprehension through my body. I could feel the walls closing in, shadows rising. Ethan's hold on my hand tightened, and I desperately searched his face for reassurance, but instead, what I found was dread, realization dawning like the pressure before a storm. Ethan? I whispered, a knot forming in my throat. What did you get us into? Before he could answer, the figure looming at the edge of the street stepped out of the shadows, the light glimmering on the edge of a gun. My breath caught in my throat, raw terror ceasing all thoughts. This was the moment I knew, love could save me, but it might also doom us both. The finality of the chaos closing in was undeniable, and I stood frozen, paralyzed by what was coming next. The rain continued its relentless descent, creating a rhythm against the pavement that echoed the thundering in my chest. My mind raced, caught between disbelief and fear as the figure with the gun stepped into the pale light. All thoughts of escape faded, leaving only the icy grip of terror wrapping around my heart. Ethan's grip on my hand tightened, and I could see the muscle in his jaw clench as he steeled himself. Stay behind me, he murmured, the command low and scarcely audible over the pounding rain. In that moment, I couldn't tell if it was protection he sought to offer, or if he was preparing to step forward into the fray, ready to face whatever darkness awaited us. Look, this isn't what you think. Riley interjected, their voice firmer as they stepped toward the figure, who still held the gun with a practiced ease. He's not your target. You don't have to do this. Step aside, Riley. This doesn't concern you, the figure said, his voice low and threatening, but I could see a flicker of confusion in his eyes as they darted back to Ethan. He shouldn't have come back. Not now. Ethan's gaze hardened, his vulnerability replaced by a fierce resolve. You have no idea what you're talking about. Let her go. She's not involved in this. That I felt my breath catch in my throat, caught between the suffocating reality of the moment and the desperate need to shield myself from the storms swirling around us. The rain poured over my face, blurring my vision, but through it all, I could see Ethan standing tall, embodying a strength I had yet to witness. The figure hesitated, confusion battling with the intent in his eyes. "You think this is just about you? You don't understand what you're dealing with." Before I could register the shift in atmosphere, Riley stepped further into the light, their shoulders squared. "This isn't a matter of understanding. It's a matter of choice. You're chasing someone from the past, but you're about to destroy everything." Everything seemed suspended in that moment. The rain, the fear, Ethan's hand in mine. The gun lowered slightly, but the tension hung heavy, a noose around us. I dared to hope for a moment of clarity, something that could break through the fog of danger closing in. "You really don't have to do this," Ethan said, a gentleness spreading through the steeliness of his voice. "There are other ways out." The figure's expression shifted, uncertainty dawning as the shadows of the past flickered in his eyes. "He thinks he can coast back into town and make amends like it's that easy. Lives are at stake here, Ethan. Yours and hers." A piercing hush settled over us, and I could see the weight of their shared history etched on Ethan's face. "If I have to face the consequences of my past, I'll do it alone," he replied, his voice steady despite the stakes. "Don't drag her into this." Just when it seemed we might have a chance to unravel the tension, a sharp crack echoed through the rain-drenched alley. The deafening sound shattered my heart, and I instinctively grabbed hold of Ethan, pulling him toward me as the figure stumbled back, the gun clattering to the ground. For a brief moment, time splintered into myriad possibilities, frozen in the chaos. And then, as reality surged back, I saw the figure fall to his knees, the rain pooling around him dark and murky mixing with the crimson of betrayal. "Victor!" Riley gasped, kneeling beside him, their hands pressing against the wound as panic crept into their voice. "Get up." Ethan's voice cut through the noise of the rain and the pressure in my chest. "Get up, please." The scene unfurled like a nightmare, and I clutched Ethan's arm, my heart pounding with each labored breath that escaped Victor's lips. He glanced up, confusion mingling with a flicker of recognition as his eyes landed on me. "Ethan, I didn't mean. What have you done?" Ethan shouted, his voice cracking. "I didn't want this." As I blinked away tears, the reality of the night's events slammed into me, fear, pain, and the relentless past clawing at our lives. Caught in an agony that was both real and surreal, I felt paralyzed by the sudden twist of fate. Lives were fragile things, caught in the web of choices made long before the rain began to fall, and then, in an instant, Victor's gaze shifted past us, and we followed his line of sight, my stomach dropping as realization washed over me like the cold rain. A figure emerged from the shadows, watching intently, a calculating smile curling the corners of their lips. They held a briefcase, unassuming but heavy with implication. "Looks like the night's grown a bit more complicated, hasn't it?" The voice dripped with malice. "Who are you?" I gasped, my voice trembling as fear gripped my chest. Ethan's jaw clenched, and I felt the fabric of our lives begin to unravel before me. The storm was far from over, it had only just begun. The night closed in around us, shadowed by the drenched alley and the weight of unspoken fears. The figure stepping out from the darkness was an unwelcome arrival, a specter of dread that sent shivers racing down my spine. Something about the case they carried seemed to thrum with promise and peril, a tangible embodiment of secrets yet to be revealed. "Who are you?" Ethan demanded again, the strength in his voice now a low growl, a protective shield drawing up between us and the unknown. The figure continued to smile, their eyes gleaming with a malicious intelligence. "Just someone who knows how to tie up loose ends," they said, placing the briefcase on the ground with a soft thud that sounded final against the chaos around us. "And right now, you two are the mess I've been looking to clean." Riley's hands were still pressed to Victor's wound, their shaky breaths blending with the pounding rain. "You don't have to do this," they implored, desperation lacing their tone as they looked from the stranger to Victor, whose breaths grew increasingly shallow. "Oh, I absolutely do," the figure replied, leaning down, a shadow eclipsing Victor's waning form. "This is just the beginning, you see. Everyone involved tonight has a role to play." They lifted the briefcase and unlatched it slowly, the sound reverberating through the air like a countdown. And I'm the one directing this little performance. That I felt the ground shift beneath me, a sensation not unlike vertigo as I clenched Ethan's hand tighter. "What do you want from us?" My voice sounded small against the backdrop of thunder, yet it held a tremor of defiance. "Everything," they answered, unrepentant. "But first, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about Victor's little mistakes, it's about legacy, control, and the sins of the fathers. You've stumbled into a family affair you know nothing about." Ethan flinched, the weight of their words pressing heavily on his chest. "What does that even mean?" "You can't hold me responsible for what happened in the past." The stranger straightened, their focus penetrating. "You are your father's son. That makes you part of this, whether you like it or not. And you need to realize that any threats to our family won't be left unpunished." As the stranger spoke, I watched Victor struggle, his breath hitching in agonizing gasps. Through the haze of panic, reality struck me with the force of a lightning bolt. Ethan wasn't just torn between me and the unknown, he was tied to a legacy he hadn't asked for. "Victor is just a part of this too," I whispered, as if speaking louder would summon the courage to change the course of events. "He's no longer your target. He's dying. Can't you see that?" The figure's gaze flicked toward me, surprise flickering like a candle in the wind. "Interesting choice of loyalty," they replied, amusement dancing in their demeanor. "But it doesn't matter. What matters is that your future is about to be rewritten, sweet girl." As their words hung in the rain-soaked air, I glanced back at Ethan, and in that fleeting moment, he seemed transformed, not just a man battling against the night's perils, but a man faced with the weight of his lineage. A flicker of vulnerability sparked in his eyes. "What do I need to do?" he asked, the resolve deepening into desperation. "That's the spirit," the stranger replied, satisfaction curling their lips. "It's quite simple, really. Play your part correctly, and maybe we won't need to take Victor's life tonight." The rain continued its relentless fall, cold and unyielding, and I was swept away in the tide of uncertainties crashing against us. "Why are you doing this?" My heart raced, dashing hope against despair. "What do you hope to gain from all this chaos?" "Control over a fractured family," the figure said, their smile shifting from cruel to almost gleeful in its malevolence. "And it's a lead-in to something much larger." A clap of thunder shook the ground, an ominous herald as the stranger opened the briefcase. My breath hitched as I caught sight of the contents: files, photographs, stacks of money. It was a gallery of secrets, of souls entwined in the fabric of this tragic fate. "Every choice tonight leads to a resolution, and each of you holds a piece of the puzzle," the figure said, their voice weaving through the chaos like a siren's call. "But make no mistake, one wrong step and the consequences will be catastrophic." Suddenly, Victor gasped heavily, and Riley's hands faltered. "Help him!" I screamed, my fear for Victor surging forth, clashing with my fear of the figure. "He needs a doctor. He deserves a chance." The stranger raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Ah, that's the beauty of human life. So fragile yet so full of desire." They turned their gaze back to Ethan, whose face was a mask of anguish, caught between duty and the heart-wrenching choice of saving the man who had caused him so much pain. "Do you want to save him? Or do you want to save yourself?" In that tense breath of time, realization struck me, raw and vivid. "There has to be another way," I pleaded, urgency flooding my veins. "Can't we find a different solution? This cycle of pain doesn't need to continue." The stranger's eyes glinted with mirth, but also with an undercurrent of something raw and terrifying. "Perhaps the only solution lies in letting go of the past, my dear. But alas, no one wants to be free when they cling so tightly to their desperation." The rain soaked through our clothes, frigid and unforgiving as I stood rooted to the spot. In a world caught between two irreconcilable realities, two lives remained poised at a precipice. That night, hidden truths seemed on the verge of unraveling, and yet I sensed a deeper, darker entanglement at play, a revelation that could alter everything I thought I knew. And then, out of the shadows, a haze of uncertainty thickening the air, I caught an unexpected movement, a flash from the corner of my eye, something stirring and shifting in the fog that clung to the alley. The figure standing before us turned sharply, their smile fading from triumph to annoyance, and in that electrifying moment, I braced for whatever storm was about to descend. In the flurry of decisions, I held my breath, the heart of the night beating louder than the storm, as we stood on the cusp of an unimaginable truth yet to reveal itself. and the shadows whispered secrets that could shatter us all. The stillness following the stranger's sharp turn felt suspended in time, a taut string pulled to the edge of breaking. My heart raced, adrenaline surging as I strained to see what had caught their attention. Through the curtains of rain, indistinct shapes emerged, shifting like phantoms among the puddles. My breath caught as the figures took form, two silhouettes moving quickly, contrasting with the stagnant chaos around us. They were clothed in dark hoodies and moved with purpose, each stride echoing with a sense of impending confrontation. What now? Ethan whispered, his voice low and instinctual, still teetering on the brink of fury and despair. Stay close, I urged, the need to protect him overwhelming, but my words felt inadequate against the unpredictability that surrounded us. The stranger, now visibly irritated, straightened, their gaze piercing through the rain. This is an unexpected turn, they mused, their calm masking an undercurrent of rage. But it doesn't matter. What I need is right here. Riley's fingers trembled on Victor's wound, blood soaking the makeshift bandage created from his shirt. Someone needs to help him, they insisted urgently, glancing from the stranger to Ethan, desperation fueling their plea. We can't keep playing their game. We need to save Victor. The sound of footsteps grew closer, heavy and deliberate, breaking through the weight of uncertainty. The figures approached, their shadows morphing in the dim light, menacing yet familiar. And then I realized, even amid the whirlwind of tension, they weren't strangers. They were familiar faces from Ethan's world, men with ties that bound them to this night of impending chaos. Ethan. One of them called, a tall man with piercing blue eyes that mirrored the stormy sky. Get away from him. He brandished a weapon, the metallic glimmer cutting through the darkness like a knife slicing into jagged silence. Wait! Ethan shouted, confusion and fear etched in his features. That's not what you think. We need help. The looming danger only intensified the chaos. As the stranger turned back, a new calculated madness danced in their eyes. Welcome to the party, they said, an ominous cheerfulness in their voice. Seems the family is here just in time, but I couldn't let panic take over. Please, I cried, needing to save Victor, needing this nightmare to end. If they can help, let them. We need a doctor. Nice try, the figure replied, flicking their wrist dismissively. But blood spills before help arrives in this sordid business. You should know that by now. Yet there was a flicker of something else in their gaze, a calculating flicker that hinted at possible weakness. The footfalls grew louder, chaos boiling as the men hesitated, their glares shifting between the stranger and us. They seemed unsure, holding themselves in a combat-ready stance, as though waiting for a command. Darkness twisted around us like a predator stalking its prey. And the suffocating tension, a spark ignited within Ethan. We can't keep letting this go on. This is insane. Look at what's happening. His voice rose, emboldened by a surge of raw emotion, and his gaze fixed on me, pleading. You and Riley get Victor out of here. I'll handle this. No. I shot back, grasping his arm tightly. We're in this together. You're not leaving my side. Yet even as I said those words, doubt crept in. He was woven into the very fabric of this unfolding chaos, and every moment was leading us deeper into a web of destruction. The stranger tilted their head, their smile returning, as if my defiance fueled their power. Ah, look how they band together, always seeking strength in numbers. But numbers won't save you tonight. Suddenly, one of Ethan's acquaintances stepped forward, his weapon lowering slightly as confusion crossed his face. This isn't a game, Ethan. You know what's at stake. We can't just walk away. He seemed torn, the loyalty to Ethan clashing with the weight of unspoken contracts binding them to the shadowed figure before us. The air was thick with desperation, a volatile mix of fear and loyalty, fraying all semblance of sanity. As Victor gasped for air beneath Riley's hands, the electric tension pulsed through me, urging me to take action. Please, I implored, turning my attention to the stranger again, my voice trembling but resolute. You have the power to stop this. We can break this cycle of violence. We can do better. The figure paused, their expression unreadable for just a heartbeat. But in that instant, when darkness flickered and hope dared to push through, a sudden explosion ruptured the air, a gunshot, sharp as a meteorite seizing the night. No! Ethan and I both screamed, instinct drawing us closer as the reality of that sound engulfed us like a suffocating wave, and yet, as the echoes of chaos settled around us, a new fear gripped my heart, a chilling realization that this was only the beginning. The stakes were higher than we imagined, and as secrets slithered out of shadows, the truth began to unravel, revealing a terrifying plot that could ensnare us all. In the aftermath of that shot, as darkness converged with the frail glimmer of hope, we stood on the brink of an unimaginable revelation, one that would test our strength, our loyalty, and our will to survive, a night where decisions would define destinies, and each heartbeat would echo the choices yet to come. The cacophony of chaos exploded around us, drowning out the rain as I held my breath, the world fading into a blur. I could feel Ethan's heartbeat thundering against my palm, the reality of our situation crashing down around us like shattered glass as the smoke from the gunshot hung heavy in the air. The figure before us remained unnaturally calm, eyes fixed on Ethan, evaluating him like a chess piece on a board intricately crafted with layers of deceit. Then, I turned my gaze back to Victor. The weight of the moment slammed into me. He wasn't just a casualty in this fight, was tangled in the threads of Ethan's past, and to let the darkness claim him without a fight felt like an unforgivable sin. "We can help him," I shouted, my voice cracking against the tempest of uncertainty. "Someone, please, call for help." Riley's eyes glistened with tears as they cradled Victor's head, each shallow breath echoing with the grim reminder of time slipping away. "But we can't trust anyone here," they whispered, looking from Ethan to the stranger and back, horror and desperation intermingling on their features. "Every second matters, and yet let me handle this," Ethan interjected, the tone of his voice amplifying with determination, masking the turmoil within. I could see the resolve setting in, but fear clawed at my insides as I realized the darkness he faced was bigger than I had comprehended. He stepped forward, turning slightly to put himself between the stranger and me. "You don't have to do this," he addressed the figure, his voice a mix of defiance and desperation. "And yet here we are," the figure replied, shaking their head in mock sadness, as if Ethan's bravery were a mere game of charades to them. "You think this is about forgiveness or redemption? This is survival, Ethan. You're in my territory now." As the rain intensified, my heartbeat synchronized with the pulse of chaos, thoughts racing in my mind. I needed to cut through the web of fear wrapped around us all. "You don't own us," I shouted, stepping beside Ethan, my heart hammering wildly against my chest. "We refuse to be pawns in this game." My voice trembled but rang with an urgency that felt electric, something deeper than the surface combat of fear and threats. The figure laughed, a chilling sound laced with malice that sent shivers crawling down my spine. "Ah, but you are already moving in my game, my dear." They gestured towards Victor, whose breaths were becoming shallower with each passing moment. "And I hold the key to all your lives." Suddenly, a flash of movement caught my eye, a dark figure slipping through the shadows. "Get out of here!" a voice shouted, echoing through the stillness, and in that moment, the air shifted. The newcomer lunged into our midst, a fellow ally emerging from the chaos, ready to tip the scales. "I won't let you claim another life," they shouted, raising a weapon defiantly. It was Liam, Ethan's ally, and his presence felt like a tidal wave crashing through the tumult. The figure faced him, anger flashing in their eyes. "You think you have power here? How adorable." But behind the bravado, I could see a flicker of fear spilling into their confidence, as if they had begun to realize the stakes were shifting. "You'll regret this," they hissed, before raising the briefcase ominously. "Stop!" I cried, my heart in my throat. "Let him go. It doesn't have to end in violence." Yet the world seemed to grow louder and louder, the storm around us intensifying as thunder clapped ominously, matching the fast pace of my thoughts. The fear that if this continued, someone would be lost forever. Ethan caught my eye, and in that brief moment, the weight of his world rested heavily upon us both. "As long as we're bound together, there's a chance," he said softly, his voice barely audible beneath the crescendo of rain. "But we have to face it together," I echoed, the resolve rising in me like wildfire. It was gnawing and raw, truth erupting from the depths of my being. But beneath the chaos, another feeling surged. Hope. And right then, just when the storm jangled my heart, I felt a pull, the tether between Ethan and me stronger than ever before. "No more hiding," I declared, drawing breath. "We will end this cycle for our future, not just for Victor." I couldn't let fear barricade my resolve any longer. Through the torrent of rain, as the stranger reared back slightly, Liam's hand tightened on his weapon, ready to strike, tension crackling in the air. "What is this about?" I demanded, scrambling to make sense of their motivations. Even as the peril spiraled around us, the figure sneered, adjusting their grip on the briefcase. "It's simply a question of balance. You choose to break the cycle, but know that a price must be paid. Nothing comes without consequence." With those words, something inside me ignited a spark, a cracked lens shifting into focus. "Then let it be worth it," I shouted, feeling the weight of every choice that had led me here. "We define our own fate." In an unexpected move, the figure flinched, hesitating as if confronted by a force they had not anticipated. "Charming confidence for a delivery girl," they mused, but I saw the crack beneath the surface, a moment of vulnerability glimpsed. "Your game doesn't have to end in the shadows," Ethan interjected, stepping beside me, emboldened. "We can choose light, if you just let us." It was a risk, but I could see Ethan channeling every ounce of strength he had left, determined to forge a different path. Suddenly, the rain ceased momentarily, and the figure's expression wavered under the weight of unspoken truths, a flash of indecision as if realizing that our collective determination shook the foundation of their power. "What do you think you can do?" they challenged, but I could hear a quiver of unease in their voice. "We can heal," I whispered softly, taking Ethan's hand firmly. "This isn't just about one life, it's about all of us. Maybe it's time to walk away from the cycle of violence, create a new narrative." For a heartbeat, silence enveloped us, thick and heavy, before the stranger finally shook their head in disbelief, lips pressed thin. "You think you can turn your back on destiny?" They stepped back, recalibrating themselves. "That strategy will only breed chaos." And just then, amid the whirlwind of the moment, I felt the texture of the air bending, the tension easing slightly as shadows began to recede. The rain had washed away the remnants of doubt, carrying with it the unburdening weight of the truth. In a final moment of clarity, the figure raised their weapons slightly, their ambition gleaming behind narrowed eyes. But I drew in a breath, fear and courage colliding within me. "Make your choice," I said, my voice unwavering. "Will you rise with us or fall into the abyss of your own making?" "Enough," Victor rasped, struggling to lift his head, his face pale but the embers of life flickering within. "This isn't about you anymore." As the energy between us crackled, the figure realized they were losing hold of the narrative. Before they could respond with more threats, the rain returned, a surge of pure reality washing over us. And just as quickly as it had begun, the fear that had clouded my heart began to lift. "That I have a choice," Ethan declared, his voice strong and clear, resonating like a beacon. "And if this ends here, then we forge a new beginning." With an explosive flourish, Ethan took a step forward, ready to reclaim his destiny, dragging the shadows of the past into the light of transformation. And then, the briefcase fell to the ground, the weight of secrets unspooling like a spool of thread, revealing everything in end, and potentially a new beginning. That pivotal moment, under the unyielding embrace of the storm, I realized this was no longer just about delivering hope, it was about seeking courageous paths, overcoming darkness, and rebuilding instead of destroying. As the storm began to recede and the echoes of conflict settled, I held on to Ethan, our connection stronger than all the fears we faced together. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together," I promised, a vow suspended in the clarity of that newfound strength. And standing at the fraying edges of our intertwining futures, we took that defining steep leap forward into the unknown, hearts weaving into a tapestry ripe with potential. Together, we would let love be our strongest weapon, cutting through the darkness, rewriting the narrative, and silencing the cacophony of despair. It was a chance, a glimmer of faith against the violent chaos of the night. And with every beat of our hearts, we would rewrite the scars of history until every choice transformed into hope, new beginnings echoing as a beacon guiding us through the storms yet to come.